रात में वो मिली थी दीदी। दीदी, अरे चौरसिया दीदी। नहीं रे, बताई ना रात में मैं 2 बजे रात
Good morning to esteemed resource person, distinguished guests, respected faculty members, and dear participants. It is my privilege to extend a warm welcome to you all to the third day of the National Virtual Short-Term Course on Forensic Nursing, organized by Jabalpur Institute of Nursing Science and Research. I hope that the session conducted over the past 2 days have been insightful and enriching for all the participants. The discussion on the fundamental of forensic nursing and its role in managing case of violence and sexual abuse have certainly strengthened our understanding of this important field. Today's session on the human rights in forensic nursing is both timely and significant. As healthcare professionals, it is our responsibility not only to provide clinical care, but also uphold the dignity, rights, and justice of every individual. Understanding human rights in context of forensic nursing is essential for ensuring the ethical practice and safeguarding vulnerable populations. I am confident that today's session will further enhance your knowledge and deepen your awareness of the ethical and legal dimension of nursing practice. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our esteemed resource person, Mrs. Umawali ma'am, for joining us today and sharing her valuable insight. I also appreciate the continuous effort of the organizing committee and the faculty member in conducting this program successfully. To all the participants, I encourage you to actively engage, learn, and make the most of this opportunity. Once again, I welcome you all and wish you a very meaningful and enriching session ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful introduction. Am I audible to everyone? Is my voice is clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you share the PowerPoint? Yes, ma'am. We can start with. Yes. Before starting this, I just introduce my topic, human rights in forensic nursing. So upcoming slides will see why it is important to have human rights in forensic nursing. Yes, ma'am. Next slide. So today's outline for the presentation. So I'll be introducing forensic nursing, a few slides, introduction to human rights in nursing, and human rights and the principles what need to be followed while caring for the patient, fundamental rights of victim, rights of accused, human rights-based forensic nursing, the actions, what can be done, what you are not supposed to do, Human Rights Commission, the state as well as national commission, and I'll be concluding and with few references. Yes, introduction to forensic nursing. So last 2 days, you'll be repeatedly hearing about the same thing, like forensic nursing. So exactly what you might have understood is, unlike other regular nurses, what forensic nurses do is we are filling the gap between the medical care as well as the law and enforcement. So we are the connecting point between the authorities, the legal authorities, and the caring for the patient. So forensic nursing, it is an interdisciplinary specialty blending medical expertise with the legal proficiency to serve victims, perpetrators, witness of violence, trauma, and crime. So when we say generally forensic, we always think about some crime, the crime scene, dead people. So we are finding the evidence. But exactly it is not the same, because sometimes when the patient comes to the emergency, they are alive. Our part is to collect the evidence from the patient, simultaneously care for the patient. So not only the patient who underwent assault or abuse, but also who are the victims of child abuse or human trafficking, trauma, all this big scenario comes under the forensic nursing. It extends to the evidence collection, documentation, collaboration with the law and enforcement, and legal professional. So unlike other nurses, this is our specialty. Like this nurses, the forensic nurses will be dealing with the collection of evidence as well as giving testimony for the patient as well as caring for the patient. So the forensic nurses as caregivers and justice guardians, meeting the survivor's needs while aiding the legal processes. So you have to take care of both the side, physically care for the patient, manage the symptoms. Alongside, we will be collecting the evidence for the, which is against the perpetrator. So they addresses the medical and emotional trauma through clinical assessment, compassionate care, and evidence preservation at the healthcare jurisdiction or healthcare intersection. So the same time, how we are going to balance the evidence collection and caring for the patient. That is where the exact role of forensic nurse works. It's like, so I would like to introduce, you might have known about this person by these two classes. I would like to introduce the pioneer, the global pioneer in forensic nursing, Virginia Elledge. She is known as the mother of forensic nursing. So she completed her BSc nursing, MSc nursing. So during that period, she got an assignment to do regarding this forensic, related some clinical assignment. So she got interested in that forensic nursing through this assignment. So she thought of developing a new specialty nursing called forensic nursing, and she found out the gap, why it is important for the nurses to know about the evidence collection. And she is the pioneer in global pioneer in forensic nursing. She found this AAFS, American Academy of Forensic Sciences, in 1986, and she implemented that forensic nursing model that is called integrated practice model, which is applicable for all the survivors or the victims who underwent all this abuse and assault. All this credit goes to this mother of forensic nursing, Virginia Elledge. So anyone has clue like who was the first forensic nurse in India? You can put it in the chat box. Who was the first forensic nurse in India? Okay. End of the session, I will let you know who's this. Okay. Till then, you just think about who's the first forensic nurse from India. And we have father of forensic nurse from India. That also, you might be knowing, Dr. Goria is the father of forensic nursing because he found this Indo-Pacific Academy of Forensic Nursing, and he supported forensic nurse in India through this development of a lot of books. And he was author of many research articles showing the importance of having forensic nursing in India. So next slide. So the healing hands, the definition of forensic nursing, the application of nursing procedures to public processes and the use of forensic medical care in scientific examination of trauma and death connected to abuse, violence, and criminal activity. So wherever there is a legal procedure comes in, the forensic nurse has a role to connect. This is according to Virginia Elledge by the year 1991. So moving to the importance of having forensic nursing in India. So this is a report by NCRB, latest crime reports in India. So this statistics shows what is the importance to have forensic nurses. So you see, by 2023, what is the registered number of cases in India? That is 6.24 million. And crime rate per lakh is 448. And this side, you can see the state which tops in crime rate. So all this shows there is a lack of evidence collection, which shows this number of criminal cases in India. And on the top, you see all these are reported cases. So if we take all the unreported cases, the numbers will be even more. This is the latest report by 2023. So the cases will be even more if it is reported. So why it is not reported? Because there is a lack of people who has to collect these evidences. Because one doctor cannot handle all this evidence collection alone. They may lack all this. Sometimes they miss the cases. They may miss the evidences. So this is an area where the forensic nursing can be fit. Next slide, ma'am. So when we divide these cases according to this scenario or the crime rate against whom, so the total crime rate against women, you see the total cases reported is 448, and cruelty by the husband or the relatives is the largest of the share of this crime at 133,000, kidnapping and abduction 88,000, and assault against women is 30,000, 83,000, and the rape, that is the fourth largest share of the crime, is 30,000. So when we divide the cases like this is what is the report from the NCRB, the latest report of the NCRB. Yes, next slide. Yeah, the crime against the minors, that is 177,000, kidnapping and abduction 79, and POCSO cases 67,694. This is a report by 2023. So when we take the vulnerable group, even they are abused. These are the reported cases. Yes. So where nurses can act on this? So the crime against minor, the nurses handle the initial POCSO examination, evidence collection, and 45% of kidnapping cases. As you know, when the patient report to the emergency department, sometimes the nurses may be the first one who is attending on this patient. So when you don't have enough knowledge regarding how to do the evidence collection, or to just think, it may be a reason, it may be something unusual from that patient. If you don't have that suspicion mind, then we may miss the cases out, right? And rape and assault, nurses are the primary contact for the evidence amid doctor shortage. Because of this, the shortage in the medical practitioners, the nurses may be the one who will be collecting the evidences. So imagine a nurse is going to give an injection to a patient, but I don't have any knowledge how to administer an injection. So how pathetic it will be. The same way, if I don't know anything how to collect the evidence for a patient, nearing the patient, I want to ask history or a physical examination, or I want to collect the evidence to the patient. It's absolutely a blunder, because exactly I don't know how to collect. So to fill that gap, only this IMC has started with all these courses, and we have started with webinar on this, just to make the nurses aware how to have an evidence collection, to have this knowledge. And medico-legal cases, nurses identify, register MLCs, and preserve the chain of evidence. You might have undergone all those classes, how to train the chain of evidence, this custody and chain of evidence continue. Yes, next slide. So moving to today's our topic, introduction to human rights. So what is human right? As you all know, sometimes when we are at home, when we fight, we say, no, I too have some right to talk, to do things. Yeah, let me do. I am also having all these things. So every human has rights to do certain activities, as well as when they are accused, or sometimes they may be the victim, or as a perpetrator, they have certain rights. So basically we'll see what is human rights. So protecting victims' dignity, safety, and legal rights. So we are navigating the health to the jurisdiction. So for whoever the nurse is working, we are completely concentrating on the patient, their care, what is the patient output. The legal part is very least discussed, I guess. So here we are navigating the nurse's role towards the legal system. You all must know what is the legal rights of the patient, the victim, as well as the perpetrator. Working at the intersection of healthcare, law, and the ethics. So while you know basically some ethical principles what you're supposed to follow, which we might have learned in your first year, apart from that, what are the ethical principles or the rights you should learn to maintain or collect evidence from the patient or victim? Human rights-based care are the core component of the practice. So the forensic nursehood is strong based on human rights, because without knowing the right of the particular victim, we cannot ask questions to the patient. We must know how to respect to the patient side, their data. Next one. Yes. So what are human rights? So basically, the right to work and education, opportunities for employment and learning. So these are basic human rights. Freedom from slavery and torture, protection against the inhumane treatment. So this is applicable to any setting, that I have the right to work. I don't want to get ill-treated by anybody. My respect should be, my self-respect should be agreed by everybody. Non-discrimination. So on the basis of their dressing, the way they speak, the color, they are not supposed to be discriminated. Freedom of opinion and expression. So anyone working anywhere, even at home, they are allowed. They have the basic right to express their thought and their ideas. Right to life and liberty, the fundamental right to exist and to be free. So the person has the right to choose their life, choose their treatment. They want to continue or they don't want to continue the treatment. So these comes under the basic rights of any of this human being. Next slide now. So what are the human rights in nursing? So what we are seeing is the rights of anybody. And now moving to what are the human rights in nursing. Right to life, ensuring the patient's safety and well-being. That's what we make sure of. Once the patient is getting admitted, we make sure that the patient environment is safe to get proper treatment for the patient. Right to dignity, respecting the patient's worth and individuality. So when we get a patient from abroad or other countries, so we'll have some doubts. Sometimes we feel like why they are behaving in a different way, why their communication is not proper. I'm not able to understand what they are speaking about. So definitely we'll have certain kind of different behavior from other country people. But as a nurse, you are always expected to respect their culture as well as dignity. Right to non-discrimination, treating all the patients equally without bias. So definitely our hospitals have a VIP ward, right? So and what VIP ward, VIP rooms. So as a nurse, you should not discriminate any of the patient. As per the requirement, you are supposed to care for the patient without any discrimination, whatever their physical needs must be met by the nurse. The right to privacy, protecting the patient personal information. Definitely, we will have a tendency to always talk about others, especially when it comes to this patient. And they may say, don't disclose this data with anybody. You will try your level best to keep it in with you. But sometimes when you are very curious, you may try to share with your friends that that patient was telling it to me. And it is very important when it comes to forensic nursing. It is not kind of other patient data what you are going to share. Because most of the time, they are the victims who is coming to the hospital. Especially imagine a celebrity is coming to your hospital. After all this victim assault or any kind of issue, you'll have a curiosity to know what happened to that particular patient who is a celebrity. Then you may try to share with your friends, this person came with this problem, right? So it is very quite tough to control this emotion. But when it comes to forensic nursing, you are expected to keep all this confidential, because the way you communicate to your friend may not be the same way she communicates to the others. So the data will be finally be coming out in a different way. To avoid all this data revealing, the forensic nurse who's basically learning all those things should keep the data confidential. It is not for forensic patient, any kind of patient, because the manipulation gives a wrong idea about that particular patient. The right to autonomy, empowering the patient to make their own decision. So that is why we ask for the consent, right? So this is the treatment. Are you planning to continue this treatment, or can you take this medicine? If the patient denies, you have to record it properly. You cannot force the patient to move forward with the same decision. It is up to the patient. After hearing all these positive and negatives, the patient will decide should they continue the treatment or they have to select this particular treatment or not. Right to access to the care, providing healthcare services to all the patient. Sometimes when the patient is about to get discharged, they may not know that what are the available care after the discharge. For example, for a rehabilitation services, or patient needs a counseling services. So the patient must know what are the different levels of care available. Then they can go for a selection. Okay, what kind of care I need personally. So to know that, basically the patient should know what are the basic care available for the patient. So these are the human rights which is available for the nursing. only special for the nursing. So as we all know, the nurses are basically functioning following the code of ethics, which is formulated by the ICN and ANA code of ethics. I'm not getting into depth of that because you all might have studied that in your first year. So next slide. Human rights and forensic nursing. Why it is important in forensic nursing? Ethical practice, upholding the moral principles in the patient care. So as I said, you hold always the patient data safe because you don't know the person who's sitting next to you may try to tamper all these evidences. When you say, okay, this patient was sexually assaulted, the next person who's sitting next to you may try to protect the perpetrator. They may tell the patient, go to the restroom, you can wash your private parts, you can wash your mouth, you can take a bath, then all the evidences are tampered. So you're not supposed to reveal all the suspicions what you have or the evidence what you're planning to collect. The legal compliance, adhering to the international human rights standard. So while collecting the evidence from the patient, you will always expect it to ask consent from the patient. The basic right for that particular person must be made. Documentation, recording the evidence, abuse, and the mistreatment. So that you might have learned in the last session. So we will get a body chart. Body chart in the sense, the body drawing alone we will get. On that, you will have to mark the evidence which is collected from the patient body. If it is on the hand or the cheeks or from the ear, below the ears. So you'll be writing 3 centimeters below from the ears. Recording with the date, the time, where is the particular injury happened to the patient, even the depth of the injury, the pattern of the injury, all this will be recorded according to the chronological order, what you are collecting from the patient. Victim support, providing care and advocacy for the survivors of the violence. So we call them as survivors because they survived an abuse. So when the patient come to you in your emergency department, you don't judge the patient based on their dressing, the way they talk. In the upcoming slides, we will see with an example what are the rights we are supposed to maintain. Humanitarian action, contribution to the global efforts to protect the human rights. So the giving patient the human rights basically starts from the nurses when the patient arrives to the hospital. You give the respect to the patient, that you are obtaining the confidentiality of the patient. The patient thinks that, okay, the nurse is trustable. I can share the data with the patient. As soon as the patient comes, you start shouting, you look very rough to handle the patient. Definitely the patient thinks this may not be the right person to share my details. And imagine in an emergency department, patient comes after an abuse or sexual violence. And physically, sometimes the patient may be normal to look at, right? But emergency department, what we do, we triage the patient according to the injury level of the patient. And the patient doesn't have any physically injury outwardly, we'll put them at the bottom of the list. Okay, you go to the last bit. This patient can be taken care at the end because physically the patient looks very fine. But that is the duration the patient needs an emotional support and physical support as well. And the patient waiting for long hours in the emergency department for sharing their emotional outbursts, this is causing re-traumatization to the patient. By the time the patient may go to restroom, right? They may eat food, they may drink water. We are losing this evidence. So basically, the nurse has to start with a good communication with the patient. So it is a right of the patient to receive a treatment, a better treatment from the nurse. Next slide. Core human rights, the principles in forensic nursing. So what are the principles you need to follow while caring for this patient, the victims of any kind of assault? Dignity and respect. So dignity and respect, the core principle of treating survivors with humanity. So treat the person as a human, have some humanity in you, and start conversating with the patient. Emotional needs, acknowledging and addressing the emotional distress. That is a principle. That is what you are learning from last 2 days session. The trauma-informed care. That is a very important part you are supposed to follow for any of this patient. Trauma-informed, because physically sometimes they may have the symptoms, but I need to know emotionally the patient is more traumatized compared to the physical aspect. So those patients when you approach, you keep in mind that emotionally also I need to console the patient. Physically, by the time I need to treat the patient. That is called a trauma-informed care. You must know they are physically, psychologically abused. So take care of both the area. Otherwise, you are caring for the patient, their emotional outburst is not happening, they are not communicating to you. That is even dangerous for the patient. So always follow the principle of trauma-informed care. Cultural needs. respecting the diverse cultural background. Suppose the patient asks you that this time I want to pray before collecting the evidence, or I just want to have somebody with me. Respect the patient, allow the patient to pray, allow the patient to ventilate, respect their conditional needs. Spiritual needs, recognizing the spiritual beliefs and practices. Sometimes they may request a person from outside or from the church, ask them to be with me, ask them to pray beside me. You are allowed the person to be with the patient. It is always there in the rights of the human. That is the first principle which we are supposed to follow, dignity and respect. Next slide, ma'am. So we'll see an example for this. A 19-year-old rape survivor arrives and patient looks very scared and silent. The forensic nurse sits beside her, gently explains each step, calls her ma'am, offers a female chaperone, and asks permission before touching and photographing. And while saying your safety and comfort comes first, not the justice. So this shows that person is believing, they are not just a case, and also they are a human being who is eligible for a physical respect. You are supposed to do that. So when you call them by ma'am or by their name, it's if they understand, okay, the nurse respect me, they respect you, my clothing, what happened to me. Beside all those things, she's respected. So this is the way we have to communicate to the patient. Next slide. Next principle is non-discrimination and equity. So equal access, provide equal access to the forensic services, irrespective of the gender, age, disability, sexual orientation, or community. So now it is quite famous now, this LGBTQ, the sexual workers. So irrespective of any of their choices of their job, whatever it is, they are still a patient and human. You have to look them as the patient and give them all the access for the forensic care. There is a different branch in forensic nursing called tele-forensic nursing. So even you can approach to the people who are in rural area where they are the victims of any kind of abuse. Because this branch developed just to approach the people who are not able to access to the forensic services. Reduce the barriers. Identify and reduce the structural barriers like the cost, travel, stigma that may deny the marginalized group forensic nursing care. So initially we cannot ask the patient, have you taken the admission? Have you finished all this requirement for the admission? So with all this, the patient will be frustrated. They may think, okay, I cannot afford the cost in this hospital. I need to travel to this much. The stigma is a very big problem in India, the stigma. They cannot ventilate out to the others saying that what they'll think about my family, what my family thinks about myself. So all this basic stigma should be removed even from the basic school level. They should be educated to the level that they are supposed to disclose what happened to them. That is non-discrimination and equity. So moving to the next principle. So one of the example for this, a 30-year-old sex worker arrives with injuries after sexual assault. A staff member comments she gets hurt because of her lifestyle. And the forensic nurse insists on equal care, explains all the steps in her language, ensures privacy, documents all her injuries and statement objectively, just as any other survivor does. So though she may be a sex worker, whatever it is, but the abuse happened without her consent. So they must be treated like any other patient or a victim, how they come to the hospital. So this shows the non-discrimination and equity among all the patients. Next slide. Care of persons in custody. So we have a role. The forensic nurse has a role in this. They are called custodial nurses or institutional nurses. Custodial or institutional. So the role of that particular forensic nurse is to visit this prison, jail, or police station to know that the perpetrator who got arrested, are they facing any kind of abuse in the prison or in that jail center? Because it is their basic right to be treated as a human. They are just suspects. They are not proven as these perpetrators or the criminals. So till that, it is their right to be maintain all this basic human right. So there is a role for the forensic nurse and custodian or institutional nurse. So they will be visiting every day on this particular day to this jail or prison. They'll do the physical examination of people, like this victims or the perpetrators, to know is there any injury on their body? Did they undergo any physical abuse in the jail, the prison? On all this reported will be given to the higher authority. So what they do here, ensure the rights during the examination, protect the rights of arrested, accuse the person during the medical examination to maintain the dignity and safety. Even here, she is supposed to write all this documentation, including the body part. There is a bruise on the body, there was a cut on the body, sometimes bite mark on the body, sometimes the inmate in the jail, they may fight each other, causing all these issues. So she has to do a careful physical examination while maintaining this principle. Identify the torture. Be vigilant in identifying the signs of custodial torture and document them accurately. Manage dual loyalty. Navigate the pressure from law enforcement while prioritizing patient care and ethical obligation. This always comes into the forensic nurse's mind. Should I collect the evidence first, or should I take care of the patient? Should I support the law first, or should I support the patient first? When it comes to the dual loyalty or dual role of the forensic nurse, it always falls on the patient. You have to take care of the patient first, their physical problems, then comes to the law enforcement, because we need the patient for the evidence, right? After that, only all this evidence collection comes. So always, when it comes to the dual role or your ethical dilemma, what should I do first? Always take care of the patient first, then alongside you can go for the evidence collection. So every classes, all this, no resource people will be saying you that you have to collect the evidence, you have to maintain the dignity, and give physical care for the patient. It is not easy to do when it comes to the real scenario. For that, we have the courses actually. You all know, you all must be knowing that Gujarat, we have the MSc nursing courses for forensic nurses. So when you undergo all these courses, you will be trained how to collect the evidence for the patient. Okay, so with this all webinar, we are just trying to make you aware that these are existing. You can have some basic knowledge about this evidence collection so that this can be applied when you work in your clinical setting. Moving to next one. Next slide. Next slide. Am I audible? Okay. Yeah, the next principle, autonomy, informed consent and confidentiality. So see, assess the capacity of the patient, evaluate the patient ability to understand and listen. So the patient doesn't know English, they know only the regional language, and you communicate everything in English. The patient may not give you the consent because they don't understand what you're talking about basically. So always try to bring somebody who can talk in their language. Explain the steps to the patient, because imagine the patient underwent a sexual violence, and again you are going to collect evidence from the same body part where they got all this abuse. So before you touch the patient, they will be scared, they may panic. So explain each step to the patient, how I'm planning to do the evidence collection. I may touch your private part, I may have to take photographs of this part, this to collect that evidence, but tell them this will be confidential. Sometimes the evidence cannot be enough. You have to do a recollection of the evidences. All this must be instructed to the patient that this is the purpose I'm doing the evidence collection. And moreover, get the consent. So the patient says, no, let it be any kind of cases, The patient says, no for evidence collection, it is a no. You are not supposed to do the evidence collection from the patient. The patient gives oral consent or a written consent, you are allowed. And in between the evidence collection, the patient says, no, you stop the evidence collection, I am not able to cooperate. You are supposed to stop the evidence collection from the patient. This is how you get concern from the patient. And the patient says, no, I want somebody to accompany me during the evidence collection. You are supposed to allow somebody, mother, or who is very close to the patient. You are allowed to allow them to with the patient. Otherwise, the patient may not cooperate. It may not support the legal evidence. We cannot support as a legal evidence. Protect the confidentiality. Safeguard the medical and forensic records from unauthorized disclosure. So nowadays we are moving from paper pen scenario to the electronic medical records, electronic health records. So what happens when we change to this? The records may be even kept more confidential than other data, because only one person may have the access towards that particular data, right? So with the passcode, only one nurse may be allowed to handle the patient data. This comes under the chain of custody. So from the date the patient got admitted, you started collecting the evidence from the patient till the handing of the evidence to the authority, the legal people, whoever handles this evidence, that data, that process is called the chain of custody. So as a forensic nurse, you are expected to maintain the chain of custody with all the details whoever handled on this data. Next slide. Here comes a scenario. A 20-year-old woman comes after sexual assault and is asked to undertake a full forensic examination. The nurse explains each step in a simple language to tell her she can agree to some parts and refuse others. And asks, do you understand? Is it okay if we proceed? These are very important. You ask, I am proceeding. Patient may think it is mandatory to do cooperate with the procedure. No, you should ask, shall I proceed? You have all the rights to say yes or no to me. So patient should know before starting your consent. They must know that you have options to say yes and no. When the patient says she wants treatment but not evidence collection, then the nurse accepts her decision, provides care and documents the refusal without judgment. But when it comes to POCSO case, it's children. We don't wait for the consent. We are supposed to inform to the legal authority because the child may not know what happened to them. So we are supposed to inform. So there are exception cases when it comes to the consent. Next slide. Yeah, right to safety and protection from further harm. Re-victimization prevention. Implementing the strategies to protect victims from further harm. So here, patient underwent all this problem. And when they come to OPD, I'm probably on the same question. Why are you wearing this dress? Why you went at this time? So you should always have an open communication with the patient. Don't be judgmental. Don't ask repeatedly why you did this, why you did this. Instead of that, you ask, what happened to you? Can you explain the scenario? Are you able to identify the person? Be a good communicator. Be judged, non-judgmental, and ask them. Not as a question, as an exploration. You can explain to me. Like that, be open to the patient. Collaboration, working with other professionals to prevent the re-victimization. That's what. I finish all my inquiry with the patient. I leave. Next nurse comes, and a physiotherapist comes, or a gynecologist comes. They are all going to ask me the same question with the patient. So we are traumatizing the patient and again on the same scenario. So better we will try to give the evidence what we collected to the other person who wanted to have an evidence collection with the patient. So last slide, in where I have a one-stop crisis centers thing in India, what's happening in India. In that I'll explain what is this, how we can know normalize this with the baby. Physical safety, providing a secure environment to prevent injuries. Always provide privacy to the patient, especially when it comes to the sexual assault. Because in an open area, you ask many questions, the patient may not feel free to talk to you. So providing privacy and asking all this history is very important when it comes to the trauma-informed care. Provide privacy, that comes first. Adequate curtain for the patient. Tell them, when you ask them to remove the dress, tell them that nobody is watching you and you want me to stand outside, I can go out and change your clothes. Right? So all this open communication with the patient. Psychological safety, creating a space free from emotional distress. So the patient wanted to talk to you, sometimes they'll be in a panic attack. Ask the patient to be emotionally free. Then ask the patient to talk. Don't rush the patient to ventilate what happened to you. Otherwise, the patient may forget you. Tell everything immediately. Don't rush the patient to reveal all the data immediately. Wait for them to emotionally relax. Then start asking the question. And the patient is using like words like which they experienced. You have to record it what the patient says exactly. While recording, will be like the patient was crying while communicating with me. Patient was shivering while communicating with me. Patient had bleeding. They were stopping in between. The pauses were very much, including those details we have to record while communicating with the patient. So we cannot ask the patient to rush and complete all the data very fast. Next slide now. Yeah, here is a scenario. A 25-year-old woman arrives after domestic violence, visibly fearful of her husband who's waiting in the OPD. The nurse takes the victim to a private room, ensures he does not accompany her inside. Ask in a low voice whether she feels safe going home. Explain the shelter and helping options, and offer to involve the social worker or women's cell if she wishes. This shows the right to safety and protection from further harm. Sometimes we see the same person coming to the OPD repeatedly, every same time also. That shows that the person has particular problem, and every time the level of injury or the pattern of injury is same. You imagine the person who is beating the female with a belt. This pattern of the belt. The same kind of injury may be present on the body. So as a forensic nurse, when you approach the patient, you need to see if the pattern is same or the bite marks may be present multiple places on the body. So these are the nurses must know, the forensic nurse or the basic emergency department nurse, you are supposed to know. So the patient looks very fearful with that particular person. Very well, you can ask the patient to come in and talk. And the patient says, yes, I'm undergoing any intimate partner violence or a domestic violence. You can refer the patient to the other services like police department or with the counseling. And tell the patient if the thing is going beyond your limit, you have multiple options to do it. Sometimes maybe housewife, she's not literate, she may not know the option what is available. She's undergoing the same abuse multiple times. So as a nurse, you can follow this principle and tell them these are the options available for them. Next slide. Right to justice after fair legal process. So the evidence collection, collect and document the evidence accurately to support the fair legal proceeding. Here comes the importance of evidence collection. You leave any evidence, you are not noting down the length of the wound, the abrasion, what it looks like. It's look like a bite mark or a nail mark or scratch. If you're not noting down exactly what is that evidence, it may not stand in the court against the perpetrator. It may show like it's just a scratch on the body. There is no evidence to say that the husband abused the wife or someone abused the patient. So this is the evidence which is going to speak for the particular victim in the court. So always focus on the evidence collection, how it is supposed to be done for the patient. Victim behavior. Refrain from judging the victim's behavior, the clothing, the alcohol, a delay in reporting. Sometimes the patient comes to the OPD or to the emergency department after 2 days. Okay, so obviously we'll have a doubt. What happened to you? She may say 2 days back this happened. Then we'll have a judgment. Okay, you came after 2 days. That means you are okay with that particular problem. You tolerated that. Then why are you coming to the or why are you coming to the emergency department? As a forensic nurse, you are not supposed to judge the patient whenever they come to. Sometimes no, the females may not have the guts to come and report that immediately. They need psychological support from somebody to go and report all these things. So that may be the reason they delayed for this consultation or this appointment. So always consider the patient, though they come early or delayed, it is their problem. Find out the possible evidence that can be collected from the patient. Yeah, next slide. So 13-year-old man, here comes the man, reports being assaulted by a shop owner and is referred for a medico-legal team examination. The forensic nurse examines him carefully, documents all the injuries, bruises, laceration, the pain signs, records the exact time. So his version in his own words and the chain of evidence without adding personal. The nurse ensures he gets a copy of report and explains how he can support the case in court. This shows the right to justice and a fair legal process. So the 2 days the patient might have waited, the person might have waited, let me solve the issue. But as the days progresses, they may think this is a serious issue. Daily the person is assaulting me, let me go and report. So all these cases, they come late also, you have to report. But don't say that they reported late because they thought it is okay to undergo. So the nurse should avoid all the sentences which goes against the patient. They can report the patient underwent assault on 12/3, reported on 14/3, as the patient was not ready to report to the OPD or to the emergency department. This is how you have to record. Okay, next slide. So we do have the vulnerable population. So what are the rights for them? Protect the vulnerable, uphold the rights for vulnerable. This comes always in the community. The old age people, the elderly, as well as this mentally ill patients or mentally retarded. Those people are vulnerable for all these abuses. So as a forensic nurse, you have the role in the community to educate them what are the signs of this abuse. So as a community health nurse, when you visit to the different houses, you may see one day the child is standing and crying, you may see the bruises on the child's body, and even the child is malnourished or the child is not dressed up in a proper way. That all falls under the child. Or the elderly, she is not taken care. She looks malnourished or the dress is not proper. You very well as a community health nurse, you can ask the patient, what happened to you? Why you are not dressed? Have you had the food? Why? All this can be reported to the higher authorities by the community health nurse. Even you have the role of forensic nurse in the community. Address the vulnerability. Focus on the specific needs of the people. As we know, the family members must be educated regarding this abuse. Because when the child sees repeated abuse at home, they may think this may be a normal practice at every home. So the mother must be educated that the abuse is not a normal behavior at home. So with this, we can protect the vulnerable people as well as the mentally ill people from all this abuse. Comes to the care for all, ensure the right for all the individuals. It is not only who is coming to the hospital are required to taking care. Even the people of the community are having all those basic rights to take care. Manage bias, overcome the personal prejudices. It is very tough for any human being to come over this personal opinions or prejudices, because when we look at a person, immediately we have a perception of that person. Okay, dressing is good, the person looks good, he may be very good, behavior may be good, but mostly what comes, the person who look very good outwardly start with the most of the criminal behaviors. So don't judge anybody based on their appearance. Moving to next slide now. Documentation and medico-legal responsibilities of a pharmacist. So MLC documentation, objective, non-judgmental, detailed documentation is crucial. Detailed in the sense with the body chart. We must know where the problem exactly for the patient. Chain of custody, errors in the chain of custody can violate a victim's right to justice. As I told, they cannot, this evidences may not stand at the court because description is very poor. For example, I'll tell you a scenario. A patient comes to you, a dead body. The patient brought to hospital as dead. And the patient is wearing a cloth, a dress, maybe a chudidar, something the patient is wearing, and they have a chain in the neck. It looks golden color. Generally, how we will record this when we receive the patient? So what we generally do is, we record it as, we received the body, there was a gold chain in the neck. But are we sure, is it a gold chain? Sometimes it may be a anti-gold, which looks like gold. But what happens when you hand over this to the bystanders of the family? They may say, my child was wearing a gold chain and you are giving a duplicate. So how we are supposed to document is, the patient, the body had a chain, a metal chain present, which was golden color. That is how you are supposed to describe any kind of material present in the patient body. Suppose you enter as gold, then it falls on us to prove it is a gold. It was a gold, right? So always be objective while recording the details on the patient. Photography and evidence, consent, proper storage, and controlled access are essential for the photographic evidence. So always have a controlled access. That means whoever comes to the hospital for the shift cannot access to the evidence. You must see that only 2 or 3 nurses are supposed to handle the patient or handle the evidence, because there are people who may try to tamper the evidence. Delete one picture, done. Because as a forensic nurse, you are expected to take photographs in the different angle of that particular wound. Even if one angle is missed, we cannot prove it as a bite mark or it is a nail mark, or they hit the patient with a sharp instrument or with a pencil, pen. With all this, we can identify what is the exact instrument, because this evidence will be sent to the forensic science lab. So where they have different departments. That department, one is called a ballistic department. That means the instrument what is used to kill a particular person or be it or used against them will be sent to that particular department, ballistic department. They use that article to know in which angle or which direction they might have used this particular instrument, especially when it comes to the guts. So they keep that particular distance and they shoot and see, okay, what distance if the person might have shot to get that hole on the patient body, or to particularly on the particular part of that angle, or on the head, forehead, or behind, how it happened. So all these evidence help to identify the perpetrator. So when you document evidences with the detail, including the centimeter, millimeter depth of that wound is expected to document. Testifying in court. Balancing the patient advocacy with the factual reporting is key responsibility. So this evidence can be spoken in the court. And as a forensic nurse, you should have the ability to hold all this evidence, because you are the first line contact for the patient. You may be asked to give a testimony in the court, right? So as a nurse, what you witnessed while collecting that evidence from the patient, you are expected that to present in the court. So the nurses can be an expert witness for the testimony. But as of now, in India, we don't have a designated post for the forensic nurses, or we are not allowed to collect the evidence from the patient because we are not designated for that. Our education is not allowing up to that. That is why there is a lack of documentation and evidence. Because the doctors are busy, they just have some nurses or ad hoc person for that to collect the evidence. So how far the evidence is collected, that is not guaranteed. And also when you collect the evidence from the patient, it is expected to accompanied by a gynecologist, especially with sexual harassed victim. But imagine if the gynecologist is not aware how to collect the evidence. Suppose she doesn't have a knowledge regarding collection of evidence from a sexually assaulted victim, then all these evidences are lost. So basically in India, what we are lacking is the knowledge to collect the evidence for the particular patient. Not even we will have a thought to suspect about particular wound. Right? So we will think it may be a regular wound. The child might have bitten the patient or the mother. So we will think in that aspect. We will never have a suspicious aspect. Okay, so as a nurse, have the thoughts to suspect on everything, how it might have happened. As a patient, is it normal? Is it happening every day? Why are you not reporting? Though you are not a forensic nurse, a basic emergency department nurse is allowed to ask all these questions to the particular patient. Next slide. Rights sensitive forensic documentation. Document objectively, use the patient's own words in quotation marks for the history. This you might be doing, which you might have used in psychiatric nursing, process recording we call, right? As such, how the patient spoke to you, the same way we write all these things. So here in forensic nursing, you are expected to write all the things what the patient spoke to you exactly in the same way. Type the injuries by the size, site, color, shape, and the tenderness. Record the time, date, people present at the time of consent, and procedures done for the patient, including the time. Avoid rights violation. Avoid judgmental phrases such as alleged behavior or promiscuous. That means the patient, this victim provoked this perpetrator. Avoid all this kind of dialogues. What happened to patient, what the patient is conveying, exactly that is expected to write. Do not add personal opinions about the truthfulness or the character. As I told, if there is a person who is a sexual worker comes to you in the emergency department, you are not supposed to write, she is a sexual worker who underwent all this. By profession, the patient does this. Then you can start writing the data of the patient. Maintain chain of custody and secure the records of the privacy of the justice. So it should be always secure. The data should be always secure. Next slide. Informed consent is central. Before examination, explain the purpose, step, benefit, discomfort, and choices. This part is very important, the discomfort. Imagine you are going to collect the data, the swab, the vaginal swab, the vulval swab, and the cervical swab, which will be scraped and taken from the patient body. And the hair sample will be taken from the patient body. And the pubic hair will be combed and the hair will be collected from the patient. Imagine the body part is already traumatized. On the top, we are doing the evidence collection on that. And the photograph. Imagine the cooperation from the patient is very crucial here. And the patient asks you to stop, very well you can stop the procedure. Check the age, capacity, language needs, and emotional readiness of the patient. Clarify and patient can agree to some parts and refuse the next. During examination, ask permission before touching the patient, photographing or collecting samples. Stop when the patient says stop unless emergency care is required. Document the concern and refuse it clearly without blame or coercion. Don't tell the patient, if you don't record now, later on in your life, you will suffer. You cannot file a case. Don't give such false data to the patient. They may not be emotionally ready to give any kind of data. So tell them, accept their consent, or the patient says no, you give the medical care. That is the basic need of the patient. You can proceed with the care. Next slide. Trauma-informed care is already discussed. Listen calmly to the patient. Create a safe environment by giving a private room for the patient. Gain the trust of the patient. Understand the trauma responses. A silence, a confusion, a anger, a delayed reporting, all these are a side effect of the trauma what the patient undergo. Don't think the patient is very much, he has a good guts to tolerate all things, that's why she didn't report. Don't expect it in that way. She's traumatized. She needs some time to come to the normal zone and respond to all this distance. That might have taken this time for the patient. So don't be judgmental. So this way we can avoid traumatization to the patient. Don't tell them that you could have come early. Why don't you report it early and go to any other hospital? We will not take it. All this may cause again trauma to the patient. So that is the lack what we have. The qualitative studies related to the forensic nursing in India. When you talk about the research articles, there are very few research articles available in India, Indian scenario, which they talk about what is the need. Yes, what is the need is there, and what are the different roles of forensic nurse. It is available, and the lack is what is a qualitative report from a patient. When they come to the ED, nobody is minding the patient. No one is asking what happened to you. They are at the bottom of the list. So what is the trauma they are undergoing that period of time? So India, we are lacking a lot of qualitative study, especially from the forensic consequence. Yes, we're moving to next slide. Ethical frameworks and codes guiding the practice. So basically, we are following the ICN code, ANA Code of Ethics, and International Association of Forensic Nursing Vision, India specific context by following this ANA and ICN Code of Ethics, the basic human rights. That is what we follow. Moving to next slide. Fundamental rights of victims. So you may think only the victims has rights, no, even the accused or the perpetrator has rights. So first we will see what are the rights of this victim. A victim is defined as a person who has suffered from harm, either physical or mental injury, emotional suffering, economic loss or violation of their fundamental rights through the act or omission of considered to be violative of Indian criminal law. So many of us think that if I beat somebody, that is a trauma or an abuse. No. Emotionally, you abuse somebody, you talk about their dress, you talk about their lipstick, the way they appear, all these are abuse. And they are called victims. They are victims because of one of your word, what you spoke, that may harass them for many years. The person may take that in mind forever, right? So not only the physical, even mentally, psychologically, the word spoken can harass the particular person. So they are called the victims. Next slide, ma'am. Victims, according to the Indian legal framework, the term victim is defined under Section 2 W of CRPC 1973 as a person who has suffered any loss or injury caused by the reason of act or omission for which the accused person has been charged. An expression victim includes his or her guardian or legal head. Suppose the person is not alive who underwent all this problem. Even who's alive, their family members can file a case against the accused. They think that my son or my daughter needs a justice. The family members can file a case and get justice. Next slide, ma'am. Constitution of India, the rights to the victims. Our Constitution of India is considered to be the supreme law of the land and mother of all the existing laws. The Indian Constitution includes some provisions for victims' rights, their protection, and respects the idea of victim compensation. So all these rules we follow, that is why the Indian Constitution, Article 14 and Article 21, inculcates some vital fundamental rights that are to be read with the directive principles of state policies mentioned in Articles 39A, 41, 46, and 51C. So all this will be taken by the legal team in the upcoming sessions. They will be in detail later, but I'll share your what are the basic rights of a victim. Next slide, ma'am. So the victim rights under Indian Penal Code. So who are all the victims covered under this? The acid attacks, sexual harassment, voyeurism, stalking, and the rape. All these cases will come under the victims. The criminal law amendment by 2013. So all these cases can be filed under this criminal law of amendment. Yes, ma'am. Next slide. Victims' right under the Code of Criminal Procedure. Overburdened criminal justice system is slow resolution for the criminal cases because as the case burden increases, there will be delayed justice in India. Efficient criminal case resolutions reduce burst on the courts. So as evidence collection is good, this evidences are speaking for the victim. I think the better cases will be closed earlier because all these cases, the basic thing is there is a lack of evidence from the police. Because why? The lack of people availability in the collection of evidence. That is basic. Next slide. Major rights of victim. The first one, right to attend proceedings. Right to attend proceedings. So the victims and families can attend the trial, sentencing, and parole hearing. So I must know the person who did something to me, what happened to them. So I am very well can attend all these proceedings. The support system, a trusted advocate or family member can help victim to feel more confident when they come to this trial. They should be accompanied by the support system. Next slide, no? Say 25-year-old woman who survived sexual assault has a right to present in the courtroom during the trial. If she wishes, the court notifies her in advance about the hearing dates, and the forensic nurse supports her by explaining what to expect, arranging a safe waiting area. So the victim is eligible to take that rights to know what happens to my perpetrator. So they are allowed to come to court to hear what is the decision by the court. Next slide, ma'am. Right to compensation, the victim compensation, the financial reimbursement for the crime-related expenses, direct victims, individual directly harmed by the crime, surviving the family members, dependents, or the deceased victim, and misconduct, action contributing to the injuries. So this right shows that any direct injuries to me or to my personal things, I have the right to ask for a compensation for that. Next slide, ma'am. So with an example, I will explain this. A 17-year-old girl who survived human trafficking receives counseling, medical care, and legal support through the government scheme. So this shows the government has a scheme to support such people who underwent a human trafficking, who survive. So through this, they'll come to know that, okay, these are the services available so that I can take part of this. So she can avail for all this kind of services. So as part of the judgment, the court orders monetary compensation to cover her medical expenses, loss of education, trauma-related rehabilitation. The right to compensation helps to restore the dignity. Sometimes the victim may not be rich enough or have enough financial status to afford all this. So the court has the responsibility to direct the person to approach for all these services. Next slide, ma'am. Right to be heard. Oral or written. The victim statements can be provided orally or in written form. Impact of the description. Statements describe the offense, financial, physical, psychological, and emotional. So the person can give their voice through the oral conversation, or they can give us a written form as well as. So we cannot say that they say physically present and orally say then will keep accepted. No, even the complaints can be registered in the written form. Electronic means. Some states allow the statement in video tape, audio tape, and as well as electronic format. So you see, these are the different forms the victims can be heard. Okay, they can be presented. Next slide. So a 30-year-old woman who survived domestic violence is given opportunity to speak in the court or through a written statement during the trial. She clearly describes the abuse, its impact on her health and mental well-being, and what supports and needs. The judge or the prosecutor, defense counsel listen to her report, which considered as part of the case. So it is not that they have to communicate. Sometimes the patient may not be in a position to communicate because of the panic in the court. So she has the rights to give it in a written format where she cannot communicate orally. Next slide, ma'am. Right to information, right to attend the proceedings, right to submit the victim impact statement, right to sue for the damages, right to protection orders, right to witness fees, right to information on the proceedings. So the victim have the right to present during the court orders or the court hearings. Victims can share their experiences and impact of the crime. And victims can seek financial compensation from the offenders. Victims can obtain the legal protection from the further harm, because once they come to know these people are going to court, at any time they may face a physical injury or a threat from the perpetrator. So they can seek for the protection from the court. Victims should be informed about all the stages of the criminal justice process. So they should be knowing that they may have to come to the court multiple times regarding these cases. So they should be informed prior. So I'll tell this with an example. The next slide. A 19-year-old girl who survived acid attack is clearly explained by the forensic nurse about the medical examination procedure, what will be documented, and how her statement will be used in the court. She is also informed about the available legal aid, compensation schemes, and follow-up services. So she must know that, because she may not be able to afford all this financial aspect. So she can be given information on this aspect. What are the government support systems available for her? Next slide, ma'am. Right to restitution, restoration of the harm, aims to repair the damage caused by the defendant. Court authority. Courts can order restitution as a part of the sentences. You might have heard, right, in the orders, what the judge say that the person has to give this much money or amount to the victim for their medical compensation. So the offender is ordered to give, along with the penalty, they are requested or ordered to give this monetary benefit to the victim for their medical examination or their medical treatment. Victims' losses. Consider the financial and emotional impact on the victim. Defender's resources. Take into the account of the offender's ability to pay. So imagine the offender, the perpetrator who committed all this thing, they don't have money at all, they are having a zero thing. Then the court has to see that what can be offered to, given to that particular victim without taking from the defender. Next slide, ma'am. So we'll move to an example. A 35-year-old man who was a victim of robbery and the grievous hurt. Any idea what is grievous hurt? Yeah, that means that had an impact on their body organ, like somebody punched on their face, the tooth got dislocated, or they lost a tooth, or eye got inflamed, or the appearance of the face is changed totally. All this we call as grievous hurt, which caused a severe impact on their health. That is called a grievous hurt. So the person underwent a robbery or a grievous hurt is awarded restitution by the court by ordering the accused to return his stolen phone and repair the laptop that is damaged. So the person who did this robbery is ordered to correct and give all this, see what happened to it. And they are supposed to give monetary benefit to correct for their treatment or for their betterment of the life. This is what the right of this monetary benefit. Next slide, ma'am. Right to the expeditious return of the personal property. The property loss, the victim loses the property due to the theft or seizure. Suppose it is under the law, it is happening, but by the time somebody is abusing them, their land is stolen, their property is stolen, it is taken without the court order, that the victim is supposed to get it back. Property seizure, the police seizes the property as an evidence. As soon as the case is closed, it is expected to give back all this laptop or whatever is seized as evidence is expected to give back to the person. Time requirements, state impose some time limits for the return. So the court says that after all this evidence collection, you just within 1 month you give back all these items to the victim. Property return, property is returned to the rightful owner. And evidence use, property is used as evidence in the prosecution. So what was the record from this abuse, that will be used as the evidence against that particular perpetrator or the person of the victim. And my phone got stolen and it is returned. Somehow I fought with the person, I got it back. But whatever the damage happened to that particular phone, that should be repaired. That monetary benefit must be given from that particular perpetrator. Next slide, please. A 24-year-old woman reports theft of her laptop and mobile phone, which are seized as evidence. After the forensic examination and completion of the documentation, the investigation officer ensures that her laptop, mobile phone are returned to within reasonable time. Okay, so because I say that my property got stolen, but the police has to cross-check, why am I telling the truth or not, right? So to prove that they will keep all this as evidence, and once the case is over or the evidence is collected, this will be returned back to the victim. Next slide. Right to a speedy trial, because once the case is filed, if it takes long years, the victim may feel that why I'm continuing this. So the victim has the right to finish or to close the case at the earliest. So the priority cases, some jurisdictions prioritize cases involving children or vulnerable elderly as victims. That cases are expected to be solved very fast because the children cannot be brought to the court multiple times. Jurisdictional differences, the right to a speedy trial is provided by many jurisdictions, but specific priorities may vary. So as the evidence submitted, this takes time to complete the cases. Next slide. A 28-year-old woman who survived sexual assault files a complaint, and the court fixes regular hearing dates. Avoiding unnecessary adjournments, the investigation is completed within reasonable time. So if the person, the both accused as well as the victim present regularly at the date what is given, the case can be closed at the earliest. That is what is expected by the jurisdictionary. Next slide. Right to privacy. So the victim expects all their data to be kept private. So the confidentiality, the communication privacy, the justice system support, all this are expected to maintain the confidentiality. So that means things the victim's right of privacy. Next slide. So a 20-year-old woman who survived sexual assault is examined in a private room, only with a medical who is essential to be present at that time of evidence collection. Her name and personal details in the police report and hospital records are kept confidential and not shared publicly. That is how we can maintain the confidentiality of the patient. Next slide. Fundamental rights of victims. So far, whatever we have seen is a fundamental right of the victim. So here, unless proven, we cannot call that particular person as a criminal or something. They also need time to prove themselves as free of all these crimes. Accused refers to a person formally charged with or suspected of committing a crime such as assault, abuse, or violence, from whom the forensic nurses will collect the evidence under the court order or legal documents. The definition of accused is defined as a person or a group of people who are charged with or on a trial for a crime. On a trial, they are not proved yet. Okay. Still, they also have certain rights. So we'll see what are the rights of accused. Next slide. Rights of accused, the presumption of innocence. What is the presumption of innocence? It means the accused is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So until it is proven guilt, I am innocent. Until it is proven. So presumption of innocence. So as soon as they come to the police station, you cannot say this person might have committed. He is accused. No, until it is proven, they are considered as innocent. Why it is important? It is better than 10 guilty people escape than one innocent person suffer. That is what the Indian constitution we follow basically. The person who is innocent should not be punished. Like the 1,000 people escape who committed crimes escape, but not even a single person who is innocent should be punished. Yes, next slide. So a case scenario here, a 28-year-old man is arrested and accused of theft. Until the court proves his guilt beyond reasonable doubt, he is legally presumed innocent and must be treated such. So the police and the foresters avoid calling him thief. Unless proved, don't call that particular person as thief. You might have stolen. All this should be avoided unless proved guilty. Next slide. Right to know the grounds of the arrest. This you might be familiar by seeing the movies, right? Whenever police enters to the house, they ask, what is the proof? What warrant you have? Under what evidence you are arresting me? Do we have a warrant to arrest me? Right? So that is a legally, it is the right of the accused to know against what you are arresting me. So arrest without warrant. A person must be informed of full particulars of the offense. So we, as a police person, they are supposed to explain this is a report against you. That is why we are arresting you. Arrest with warrant. Person must be notified of the warrant's particulars. Warrant presentation, the person can request to see the warrant if needed, because I have all the right to see on what grounds I am arrested. So they can very well read and go through the warrant. Legal framework, it is governed by the section 51 and section 75 of CRPC in Indian Constitution. Next slide, ma'am. So a 32-year-old man is arrested by the police for alleged assault. At the time of arrest, the police officer immediately tells him the exact reason. So this happened on April 5th. You assaulted a woman. On that ground, we are arresting. So they are expected to give the reason why they are arresting a particular person. Next slide. Right to have the bail. So if it is a minor problem or a minor theft or something, they are allowed to get the bail. The accused is allowed to get the bail. Information. The police officer must inform the arrested individual of their right to bail, bailable offense. So we need to tell them that it is a bailable offense. So a person must accompany them, or who is a trustworthy person will take a bail on behalf of them. And surety, either they have to take the bail or they need to pay the surety amount to the court or to the law, then they can come out of the jail. That is what is the right to have the bail. So we'll see the scenario. Next slide. No? A 25-year-old woman is arrested for bailable offense of a petty theft. It's a minor theft what she did. The police inform her that she has a right to bail and she can be released immediately if she or her family arranges a surety or pays the required amount. We can't tell them that you will be in jail for 15 days, all those things. We need to tell on what ground, what is the solution for this can be explained to the accused. Next slide. Right to be taken before a magistrate without a day. So all this accused have the right to present themselves in front of the magistrate as soon as possible. So a person is arrested either with or without a warrant. The arrested person appears before a magistrate within 24 hours. That is a right of a accused. I cannot stay in the jail for 14 days. Let me I want you all to take the magistrate meet. So they have the right to present this in front of the magistrate. Next slide, ma'am. Say 29-year-old man was arrested late night on a suspicion of theft. The police immediately informed the grounds of the arrest and complete the necessary frame for the paperwork on station and then take him to the nearest magistrate court within few hours. That happens within 24 hours. So this is what is expected from the police and it is a right of this particular person. Next slide. Right to be free, fair and speedy trial. So they have the rights to go for a free and speedy trial without delaying the term. Next slide, ma'am. So I will tell you with the scenario. A 34-year-old man is arrested for a criminal offense and produced before the magistrate within 24 hours. That happened. His trial begins within a few weeks with clear dates, fixed and minimal unnecessary charges. He is provided a free legal aid lawyer. Suppose the accused says, I cannot afford a lawyer. The court can provide a free legal aid in support of that particular practice. Next slide, ma'am. Right to consult a legal practitioner. So it should be informed to them that you are free to consult a lawyer on behalf of you to proceed for your argument. Next slide, ma'am. Yeah, 27-year-old man is arrested, taken to the police station for questioning. Immediately after his arrest, the police inform him that he has the right to consult a legal practitioner. So if we can medical, we can allow them to contact their lawyer and explain what happened, and they can start with the further proceedings. Next slide. Right of free legal aid is already told. So the court can provide free legal aid for that particular person. Next slide. Yes, a 22-year-old woman from a low-income family is accused of an offense and cannot afford a private lawyer. The court informs her about the right of free legal aid, arranges a panel lawyer for her at no cost. So it is a legal right for the particular accused to argue on behalf of them. Yes, next one. Right to be examined by a medical practitioner. Suppose during the period of arrest or after some time in the police station, if they get deleted, any injury happened to the person. So they have all the rights to undergo a medical examination. Suppose they say that they bit me and outwardly the patient looks very fine, the person looks very fine. But he says, no, in my body there are bruises which was done by the police. Very well, they can request for a medical examination when they are the court. Next slide. So a 40-year-old man is arrested, shows visible bruises on his arms and back. He requests a medical examination. The police arrange for a doctor or in the hospital. That is why the patients were taken to the hospital before they proceed to the court to show that visibly they did not experience any kind of physical abuse in the police station. Next slide. Right to privacy and protection against unlawful searches. So the police officials, the law enforcement officers responsible for upholding the law. In case if the search is not needed, then it should be avoided. A belief that a crime has been committed without concrete evidence and a search warrant which is provided against that particular person. Next slide, ma'am. Right to be present during the trial. So the person, the accused, is expected to come before the trial, showing that the person has a right to listen what is spoken against him. We can move to the next slide now. We'll talk about the scenario here. Next slide now. Am I audible? Am I audible to everyone? Yes. Yeah, a 33-year-old man. Previous slide. Yeah. Accused of theft is brought to the court for each hearing and seated in the courtroom so that he can hear all the examination and cross-examination of witness. So he'll come to know in what are the grounds I am getting arrested. What evidence is coming against me? Is it really present at the time of theft or during the committing that crime? Okay, next slide. Right to get copies of the documents so that I can undergo all this things. I can check on what is against me. So I have all the rights. The accused has all the rights to go through all the scenarios or the documents what is against me. So the court will give a copy to them to undergo what are the grounds against him. Yes, next slide. A 36-year-old man accused of fraud and asked for the copies of the police report and the charge sheet, the witness statement, so that he can understand the case against him and prepare his defense with his lawyer, so that he can understand on what point I need to defend myself. Next slide. The right to be present at the trial, so it is there for both the victim as well as the accused. So in Manoj T case versus the state of Kerala, the court held that the witness evidence could be recorded in the accused counsel and presence after 1 day exception. So the accused is having all the rights to present during their trial. Sometimes this victim may feel that if they are present, the accused is present at the time of this cross-examination, they may harm me. So, but the accused even have the right to attend the trial. Next slide. Right to cross-examination. So prosecutor questions the accused defends himself, judicial process remains fair. So even the accused has the right to cross-examine. Sometimes it may be a fake case, what is making them to fall into that particular scenario. So in state of Punjab versus Gurmeet Singh, the Supreme Court protected the rape victim's dignity during the cross-examination, barring the degrading questions on her character while upholding the accused's right to prove the consent related to facts without irrelevance. So even this accused and victim has a right to have a cross-examination during the trial. So they can clarify from their part what can be done in a better way for the next trial. Next slide. Right to appeal. So arrest, an individual is taken into the custody, conviction, the individual is found guilty in the court. Right to appeal, the individual has the right to challenge the conviction. So once this conviction is done, they have the rights to challenge that. They can apply in the higher court saying that this is not an appropriate judgment for me, I did not commit the crime. So in Delhi, the Hadunda and Kodak Mahindra case, the Supreme Court affirmed that a convicted person's right to appeal under the Section 374 is fundamental and unprecedented, even in amid other proceedings, emphasizing the liberty protections under the Article 24. So they have the right to appeal at the higher courts, even the conviction is given by the other courts. Yes, next slide. Next slide. Right to humane treatment in the prison. It's very important. Here comes the role of this forensic nurse. Humane treatment, accused individuals have the right to humane treatment in the prison. It is not that the accused will be criminal and we have to punish them, even they receive a humane treatment in the prison. Human rights, all the human rights are protected when the individuals in the prison. It is expected. And it is a court order that all the human in the prison are expected to have the basic human rights. That is why the forensic nurse, custodian nurse visit the prison to know are they facing any inmate partners violence or any abuse in the jail. So she'll be doing physical examination on patient or this abuse. Next slide. Human rights based forensic nurse and actions, do's and don'ts. So what can be done? Patient-centered care. That is what we discussed in the previous slides. Patient-centered care, always focus on the physical convenience of the patient. You provide our primary care for the patient. Cultural sensitivity, don't go into the stereotype that this culture people will behave in this way. You should always respect their culture. They expect somebody to be with them, allow them. They want to pray, no. They say this is my culture, this is how we wear the dress, or this is how we do. Respect their culture. Don't question their culture. Accurate documentation of injuries, advocate for the support. The nurse is the one who can act as a support system for the patient. You can tell about the legal aspect to the patient. So these are the proceedings you can do further in the life or in the future. Next. Yes, which are the don'ts? Human rights. Which are the don'ts in this? Split loyalties. Your primary duty is to the patient, not to the state. So always treat them as a patient. Treat their problem. It is not our duty to support the law at that particular moment because the patient needs a basic physical support. After that, we can start with the next time. Pressure survivors. Do not rush or pressure the survivors into the statement like do not rush the patient to tell everything you did. You cannot do that. Do not share the case details casually. casually or even with unauthorized person. For us, it may be just a case, but for them, it is their life, the confidentiality what they are maintaining. So always keep the confidential data with you. Next slide, ma'am. Human Rights Commission is very important. What is the National Human Rights Commission in India? Because this is ultimately who is going to take care of this cases related to the human rights. The National Human Rights Commission of India serves as a key statutory body dedicated to protecting and promoting human rights across the country. So under them, we have the State Human Rights Commission. So we'll see what are the different establishment work, the framework of them. So it is founded on October 12, 1993, and they adhere to the Paris Principles adopted by UN in 1991. Definition of rights defines a human right as those related to life, liberty, equality, and dignity. So basically, they work on the principle of this, the liberty, equality, and dignity of the human being. And they operate independently with headquarters in New Delhi and regional offices. Intervention enables both central and state intervention to protect human rights. So the basic role of this NHRC, National Human Rights Commission, is to protect the basic human right. So you might have seen some cases, this NHRC, independently they take case against certain cases, certain accused, or the victim, saying that no one bothered, no one worried about the particular person. So the NHRC is coming forward to take this as a case. Next slide, ma'am. The frame NHRC composition, they'll have a chairperson, the members in that, up to 5 members, an appointment by the President of India, secretary, the general, Secretary General manages the secretary, handling the administrative and investigative. So these are the basic composition, a chairperson, member, an appointment by the President and the General Secretary. This is all the frameworks. Next slide, ma'am. Core function, inquiries and intervention. So independently they can practice, or they will ask any private agency to do inspection on this particular event and conduct a visit to the jail, juvenile homes and detention centers to know is there any abuse happening against this children in that particular home. Promotion research, reviews safeguards, studies international treaties, promotes awareness through the seminar and media, and support NGOs. So these people do the research and promotion, the importance of safety and security in these homes where the children are left. Next slide. So the power ranges from advisory to the limited enforcement. So the NHRC, investigative support, and they do recommendation also. So what are the investigative support they do? Demands the investigative support from the agencies, summoned witness and demand documents, recommendation or advisory, no contempt clause. That means NHRC has all the power to initiate an investigation and submit the report to the legal authorities. Next year, ma'am. So role in forensic nurse, so jail inspection, medical-legal evidence, abuse, death and custodial closure. So all in these cases, NHRC can recommend a forensic nurse to take care of all this aspect. Next slide. So NS role in forensic nurses and human rights commission. And this is basically the right of the abuser and the victim, how a forensic nurse can take care of this. Next slide. So this is the capacity and what is action, purpose, and reporting outcome of NHRC. Directing and deployment issues order to the state authorities. So these NHRC provide order to the state level authorities. Joint investigation. So they are allowed to do investigation joining with the other private agencies. Training and capacity building programs. So they arrange workshops and capacity building program to train the nurses. This is next slide. So it's the SHRC or State Human Rights Commission. So every state, most of the Indian states, we have the State Human Rights Commission. So what this national level they do, same role will be done by the SHRC, like training, multidisciplinary support with the different organization, deployment of nurses, assigning role for the forensic nurses, and collaboration with the different investigative agencies. Next slide. So the characteristics in judicial and the scale. National, they intersect with even the state level. The difference, the basic difference, authority and follow-up, recommendation carry the national weight for the NHRC. SHRC advisory role relies on state government. So that's the basic difference. Resource and training access, nationwide sensitization and superior funding will be done with the NHRC. And SHRC, the state level, local alignment, and fewer resources and standard operating procedures are developed by the State Human Rights Commission. Next one. Yeah, the basic challenges what the forest nurses faces. Heavy workload, the limited resources, emotional stress on them, secondary trauma. Imagine a nurse facing the same kind of victims on a daily basis. The nurses will be on an emotional burden. We will slowly develop the compassion fatigue, right? So how nurses can be trained? Medical and ethical demands and how I'm going to handle the world that is challenging. Ongoing education supervision policies. As we all know, there is a severe lack of forest nursing education in India. Okay, so all this can be addressed. Next slide. Huh? Humanitarian forest nursing. I just want to give an insight on this. So there is a branch of forensic science called humanitarian forensic science. It applies specialized nursing knowledge to victims of trauma, disaster, or conflicts, focusing on compassionate care, human rights, and evidence documentation. So this is basically very much applicable in disaster cases, national, man-made disasters, especially in the identification of these victims. So what happens after a mass trauma or this disaster, the nurse finds it is difficult to identify the body, right? So what we do, we reach to the particular houses, we find some pre-data, that is called pre-mortem details, anti-mortem details, like an X-ray of them or a dental report of them, like having a road on their toe. All this data will be collected. This will be cross-checked with the post-mortem details so that we can identify the same person who underwent this road placement, this person who died. So the antepartum report and the postmortem report can be assessed. So this is the humanitarian forensic nursing, a branch of forensic nursing. Yes, sir. Next slide. Yeah, this is what I want to talk about. One-stop crisis center. So in India, we have this facility called one-stop crisis center or one-stop centers. The hospital is mandated to link services with the OSC. A services after providing emergency care for the social, legal, and rehabilitation support. This is called as SAKI, S-A-K-H-I, SAKI in India. Okay, one-stop centers, SAKI, which is available in India. And each state and district has this one-stop crisis center with the phone number and mail ID and the name of the particular person whom you can approach in case of sexual abuse. So the person will be brought to this one-stop center. Whatever the detail they want to give will be shared to that particular person. So the victim no need to go to every time to the court and present themselves in front of everybody repeatedly. So the one-stop crisis centers, they help the victim to reveal the data one time. So that same evidence can be used multiple times. Next slide. Yeah, this is about the Bangalore. So when you go to the one-stop crisis center website in your particular state, you have the address of that particular center, name of the administrator, the mobile number, the counselor services, and their number, and even the landline. So this you can share to the particular victim. If suppose you are not able to approach them, at least you can share to them and ask them to approach these particular people in case of violence and abuse. Next slide. The key services by this, it is otherwise called SAKI, the SAKI or one-stop centers. They do the emergency response, medical assistance, legal aid and counseling, temporary shelter for that particular victim, video conferences. Next slide. So as a nursing student, what you can do for this forensic nursing, especially in rights of, use respectful introduction and explain your role. Always respective of what they have undergone. Seek supervision before handling forensic evidence because you are just grown. Even the forensic nursing is in a nascent stage in India. So you must be under that perception that I don't know. Yes, you don't know the procedure how to collect, but you should do it under supervision. Maintain strict privacy and avoid hallway discussion, especially the screaming, talking to others about the data, especially in the lift. When you're in the lift, you'll have a tendency to talk to your friends. Very low tone, but still you're talking about the patient. That should be avoided. Observe how the consent is obtained at each step. Write clear, factual notes with exact observation. Recognize the signs of fear, dissociation, and the shame. The patient sometimes may feel it is my mistake. I wrote this case. So take the patient from that. Tell them that it is not your mistake. You are addressing your tone of speech. No. The other one who abused It is their mistake. It is not your mistake. Challenge blaming attitudes respectfully in the team. Know the reporting and referral pathways in your institution, because when you look at the patient, at least you must know there are on-stop crisis centers available in India. You can very well inform them what happened to that particular victim. Next slide. Yeah. Just want to conclude this topic. So, as a forensic nurse or upcoming forensic nurses, what are the take-home messages for you all? Be traditional in evidence collection, we can, and trauma-informed care. That is very important thing. They are not only physically abused, mentally also they are abused. So when you approach them, think their emotional aspect as well. Consensual examination, always with the consent. Confidentiality and discrimination is very much maintained. Holistic victim advocacy. Don't talk only for the victims who look better, those very close to you. All the victims are victims, irrespective of their background. Is what I say. Yeah, forensic nursing joins healthcare, the law, ethics, and human rights. So your aspect fall on all these. Consent, ethics, and confidentiality are not optional. Extras, they are core duties. So it is not option. It is mandatory to follow these rules. Trauma-informed communication reduces the harm and improves the trust of the patient. Imagine all of a sudden going and touching a private part of the patient. No, not accepted. Always follow the informed consent. Get the consent from the patient. Objective documentation protects both the patient and the legal process and yourself. You cut and rewrite on anything that shows you forged some records of the documents. Every nurse can advocate for their patient. So these are the take-home messages after my session and few references from my side. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for